The quiet whisper begins innocently enough, a desire for excellence, a noble aspiration to do things right, to craft, to build, to perform without flaw. It calls to the meticulous artist, the diligent student, the striving entrepreneur. It promises a world where every detail is flawless, every outcome guaranteed, every effort rewarded with unblemished triumph. This whisper, however, often morphs into a tyrannical roar, a relentless inner critic that sabotages the very progress it claims to champion. This is the truth about perfectionism, and make no mistake, it is not your friend. It is, in its insidious reality, the enemy of progress. We live in an age of curated facades, where social media feeds present a relentless parade of polished successes, filtered smiles, and seemingly effortless achievements. This cultural current exacerbates the illusion that flawlessness is not only attainable but expected. It fosters a deep-seated fear of imperfection, a crippling anxiety that paralyzes action and smothers potential. But look closer beyond the surface gloss of these carefully constructed narratives, and you'll find a different story etched into the very bedrock of history. Every titan who ever reshaped the world, every visionary who pulled humanity forward, every individual who transcended the ordinary shared one undeniable commonality. Their journeys were messy, their creations imperfect, their progress marked not by flawless execution, but by relentless iteration. This is the uncomfortable yet liberating truth about genuine achievement. It's not a pristine sculpture. It's a dynamic, ever-evolving force. It's not a final, untouched masterpiece. It's the beautiful, rugged process of creation itself. Consider the enduring legacy of Thomas Edison. If ever there was a figure synonymous with tireless effort, it was him. Yet, his path to inventing the practical light bulb was paved with thousands, tens of thousands of failures. Imagine the internal voice of perfectionism demanding an immediate, flawless solution. Imagine the paralyzing fear of releasing anything less than a perfect filament on the first try. Edison famously declared, "I have not failed 10. 0 times I've successfully found 10. 0 ways that will not work." His genius wasn't in achieving immediate, pristine success. It was in his profound understanding that every failed attempt was merely a step forward, a data point, an elimination of an incorrect path. His laboratory was not a temple of flawlessness, but a forge of relentless experimentation, iteration, and learning. He understood instinctively that progress was not about avoiding mistakes, but about learning from them with unparalleled speed and persistence. His strength was not merely intellectual. It was a profound mental fortitude, born from repeated encounters with imperfection and an unyielding commitment to a purpose far greater than the illusion of initial flawlessness. He achieved greatness, not in spite of imperfection, but because he embraced the iterative, messy reality of invention. This inherent sabotage of perfectionism begins with a fundamental distortion of mindset. For too long, we've been programmed to view mistakes as shameful, as indicators of incompetence, as reasons to halt. But what if we reframed them entirely? What if we began to see imperfection not as a flaw to be hidden, but as an essential ingredient of growth, as a signal for adjustment, as a catalyst for deeper understanding? This isn't a call for sloppiness or a lack of care, but a profound recognition that the pursuit of absolute flawlessness is a delusion. It is a static ideal in a dynamic world. When the mind is shackled by the fear of error, it becomes paralyzed, unable to take the crucial first step. It becomes trapped in endless planning, analysis, paralysis, and procrastination, all in the misguided hope of avoiding a single misstep. Imagine a young artist terrified of making a bad stroke, forever staring at a blank canvas. The masterpiece is never created. Your ambition is the canvas, and perfectionism is the fear that binds your hand. The choice is not whether you will make mistakes, but how you allow yourself to be freed by their inevitability. This mindset reorients your entire relationship with struggle, transforming fear of error into fascination with discovery and dread of imperfection into determination to refine. It allows you to approach every difficult situation not with a sense of inadequacy, but with the quiet power of a student ready to learn, a warrior ready to train, a creator ready to build, knowing that true progress is born from iterative improvement, not initial faultlessness. From this recalibrated mindset flows a destructive belief system. Perfectionism cultivates the belief that your worth is tied directly to the flawlessness of your outcome. It whispers that anything less than perfect is a reflection of you as a person, leading to crushing self-criticism and a crippling fear of judgment. This belief system is a cage, preventing you from taking risks, from putting your raw, developing work into the world, and from truly learning in public. It fosters a fixed mindset, where errors are seen as terminal failures rather than vital feedback. Consider the early sketches of Leonardo da Vinci. They were not perfect. They were explorations, attempts, learning tools. If he had believed that every line had to be perfect from the outset, the Mona Lisa might never have been conceived, let alone painted. His genius wasn't in producing immaculate first drafts. It was in his profound belief in the process of refinement, in the inherent value of iteration, and in his own capacity to learn from every attempt. This belief is not granted. It is earned by understanding that your inherent value is independent of your performance, that mistakes are part of the learning journey, and that true growth comes from embracing the messy reality of creation. It's the quiet knowing that you are capable of handling whatever creative or professional challenge life throws at you, not because you're invincible, but because you've proven to yourself through countless imperfect efforts that you possess an indomitable spirit of progress. This belief becomes your internal compass, guiding you through the darkest storms of self-doubt, always pointing towards resilience and eventual victory, celebrating effort over initial perfection. This destructive belief in perfectionism, in turn, corrupts your clarity. When driven by the unattainable ideal of flawlessness, your objectives become distorted. Instead of focusing on meaningful impact, on creating value, or on solving real problems, your energy becomes consumed by trivial details, by endless tweaking, by a paralyzing fear of releasing anything that might invite criticism. This false clarity diverts your precious energy from what truly matters, trapping you in a cycle of overanalysis and under-execution. It's like a sculptor meticulously polishing a tiny fingernail, while the entire statue remains unformed. Consider the early drafts of brilliant authors. They are often raw, unpolished, filled with imperfections. Yet the clarity of their story or message is what drives them forward. If they were paralyzed by the need for a perfect first sentence, the great narratives that have shaped humanity might never have seen the light of day. Their clarity wasn't in achieving immediate lyrical perfection, but in holding fast to the essence of their message, knowing that refinement would come through iteration and feedback. This clarity, when warped by perfectionism, becomes a prison, binding you to the illusion that every minor detail must be perfect before any significant progress can be made. It strips away illusions not by focus, but by paralysis, keeping your energy from the actions that will truly move you forward, trapping you in the debilitating, endless loop of imagined flaws. This warped clarity then cripples your vision. It's one thing to have a grand dream. It's an entirely different, more powerful thing to hold on to a vision, to refine it, to make it more potent, when the world around you demands quick progress and iterative steps. Perfectionism turns your grand vision into an unreachable mirage. The pressure to get it right from the start becomes so immense that the sheer audacity of the vision itself seems overwhelming, leading to a shrinking of ambition, a reduction of scope, and ultimately, an abandonment of truly transformative goals. The fear of an imperfect beginning becomes the end of a potentially world-changing endeavor. Think of a visionary like Steve Jobs, whose initial Macintosh computer was far from perfect. It was revolutionary, yes, but it had flaws, limitations. Yet his vision wasn't for a perfect first product, but for empowering creativity through technology, a vision that evolved and refined over decades, leading to the iPhone and iPad. If he had been paralyzed by the need for a flawless initial release, the entire trajectory of personal computing might have been different. His vision, while grand, was deeply rooted in an understanding of iteration and constant improvement, not an unattainable initial perfection. Your vision, when shackled by the demands of flawlessness, becomes less about what you hope for and more about what you fear releasing. It becomes a static, untouchable ideal, incapable of bending, learning, and growing, ultimately leading to its demise. This crippled vision, born from the demands of initial perfection, naturally erodes your purpose. For many, purpose remains an abstract concept, something to be discovered through introspection or serendipitous encounters. But perfectionism is a purpose killer. It strips away the deeper why by focusing obsessively on the how, specifically how to do it perfectly. When the relentless pursuit of flawlessness becomes the primary driver, the initial reason for embarking on the journey to help, to create, to inspire, to solve fades into the background, replaced by the suffocating anxiety of inadequacy. Your something greater becomes overshadowed by the something perfect. Imagine a doctor whose purpose is to heal, but who becomes so consumed by the fear of making a single tiny mistake that they become paralyzed, unable to perform life-saving surgery. Their noble purpose is hijacked by the tyranny of flawlessness. Similarly, your legacy-driven purpose becomes compromised when shackled by perfectionism. It drains the passion, extinguishes the fire, and transforms a sacred mission into a tedious, anxiety-ridden chore. It's the ultimate antidote to meaningful contribution, the insidious poison that slowly extinguishes your light, replacing the joy of creation with the dread of imperfection. Your purpose, once a beacon, becomes a dim, flickering light, almost invisible, amidst the shadow of unattainable ideals. This eroded purpose, fueled by the impossible demands of perfectionism, actively sabotages your discipline. Not the inspired, self-driven discipline born from an unwavering commitment to your clarified purpose, but the self-imposed, grinding discipline of endless, fruitless tweaking. When the goal is an unattainable perfect product or outcome, the consistent incremental steps that lead to genuine progress are replaced by cycles of obsessive refinement and paralyzing procrastination. The why becomes too weak to sustain consistent how, because the how is constantly deemed not good enough. Consider an athlete who becomes so obsessed with perfect form that they never actually compete. Their rigorous training, their inherent discipline, is rendered useless by the fear of an imperfect performance. Their talent is squandered in the pursuit of an ideal that prevents actual engagement. Similarly, when discipline is chained to perfectionism, it becomes a burden, a source of profound self-flagellation rather than empowered action. You learn to avoid rather than to engage, to delay rather than to launch. This isn't about being meticulous, it's about being relentlessly self-critical, about showing up only for the illusion of flawlessness day in and day out, regardless of the external storm or the internal exhaustion. This is the discipline that not only ensures stagnation through potential breakthroughs, but also propels you to unparalleled depths of self-doubt and unfulfilled potential. From this sabotaged discipline springs inaction, not as a deliberate, strategic pause, but as a crippling paralysis born from fear and unattainable ideals. In the grip of perfectionism, action becomes less about doing the right things and more about avoiding any wrong thing. The pressure to achieve flawlessness leads to endless analysis, reanalysis, and revision, trapping you in a perpetual state of almost ready but never launched. The real world, with its deadlines and demands, moves on while you are caught in the quagmire of internal critique. This is where true ingenuity shines, not by being perfect, but by being resourceful and adaptable in the face of inevitable imperfection. Think of a software developer who never releases an app because they're constantly fixing theoretical bugs and refining UI elements to an impossible standard. Their code may be technically perfect, but it offers no value to users because it never sees the light of day. Similarly, your ingenuity is stifled when action is chained to flawlessness. Every challenge becomes an excuse for further delay, every setback a justification for retreating into endless refinement. This inaction isn't strategic. It's self-defeating, stagnant, and deeply ineffective, ensuring that your valuable ideas and contributions remain trapped within the confines of your own unyielding standards. It builds a wall, not momentum, proving that conscious, purposeful action, even imperfect action, is the ultimate antidote to the paralyzing grip of perfectionism. As you succumb to this paralyzing inaction, especially in the face of opportunities. A profound absence of gratitude begins to emerge. This isn't the superficial gratitude for comforts and conveniences. This is a deeper, more corrosive lack of appreciation for the lessons learned, for the progress made, for the simple fact of having the capacity to even attempt something. When you're fixated on the gap between your current output and an impossible ideal of perfection, you fail to acknowledge the effort expended, the skills developed, or the breakthroughs, however small, that have already occurred. Consider the artist who completes a stunning painting, yet can only see the one tiny, almost imperceptible brushstroke that isn't absolutely flawless, completely overshadowing the beauty of the entire work. Their joy is stolen by the relentless focus on the minute imperfection. This profound lack of gratitude becomes a draining internal force, fostering bitterness and resentment instead of replenishment and joy. It shifts your focus from what you have achieved to what you still lack, from the tangible progress to the elusive ideal. This perspective, warped by perfectionism, prevents you from finding joy even in the midst of genuine accomplishment, transforming effort into a source of perpetual inadequacy, and robbing you of the profound appreciation for the depths of your own capacity and the preciousness of your progress itself. It's the quiet destruction of inner peace, ensuring that nothing you create, no matter how extraordinary, ever feels good enough. This fundamental absence of gratitude, combined with paralyzing inaction and sabotage discipline, cultivates an incredible capacity for rigidity. Perfectionism forces you to cling desperately to initial plans, to specific outcomes, and to rigid ways of thinking, because any deviation from the perfect path feels like a monumental failure. Those who are paralyzed by the fear of imperfection, unable to pivot or innovate, are often left behind, unable to adapt to the dynamic realities of creation and life. But those who embrace imperfection as a call to adapt, to iterate, to reinvent, are the ones who not only survive but thrive. Your very adherence to a flawless ideal prevents you from learning the invaluable lesson that rigidity is fatal and flexibility is life. You become unable to pivot, to adjust, to find new pathways when old ones are blocked, because the perfect plan has no room for unexpected detours. Think of a rigid business plan developed with painstaking detail, designed for a perfect market scenario that collapses when unforeseen economic shifts occur. Its failure wasn't in its initial design, but in its inability to adapt. Its adherence to flawlessness made it brittle. Similarly, your pursuit of any goal, when chained to perfectionism, becomes brittle. It teaches you that clinging to a rigid ideal is a strength, when in fact it is a profound weakness. It's the understanding that the river doesn't fight the rocks. It flows around them, finding new paths, constantly moving forward. But perfectionism demands the river carve a straight, flawless channel, regardless of the terrain, and in doing so, often prevents the flow altogether. From rigidity, brittle resilience is born. Not the robust, generative resilience that learns and grows from every setback, but a fragile, easily shattered fortitude that buckles under the slightest pressure of imperfection. Perfectionism makes you exquisitely sensitive to criticism, to perceived failures, and to any deviation from your internal ideal. When your worth is tied to flawless output, any imperfection feels like a devastating blow, causing your spirit to recoil, your determination to falter, and your progress to cease. You become unable to absorb blows and spring back stronger because every blow is seen as proof of your inherent inadequacy. Consider the athlete who quits after a single imperfect performance, unable to reconcile their internal ideal of flawlessness with the reality of human error. Their resilience isn't forged in steel, it's made of glass. Similarly, when your drive is fueled by the pursuit of perfection, failure isn't a temporary detour. It's a definitive condemnation, a devastating blow that sends you spiraling into self-doubt and inaction. Because you've cultivated a mindset of unattainable ideals, you become terrified of falling, knowing that every fall provides only evidence of your imperfection, rather than an opportunity to learn how to rise with greater wisdom and determination. This brittle resilience is not about avoiding pain, it's about amplifying it, transforming minor setbacks into catastrophic emotional defeats. It's the recognition that true strength is not the absence of struggle, but the capacity to rise stronger, wiser, and more determined with every challenge encountered, a capacity utterly choked by the fear of imperfection. This brittle resilience, born from the paralyzing demands of perfectionism, actively stifles your hunger for learning. When the goal is flawlessness, any deviation from what is right is seen as an error to be hidden or avoided rather than a valuable data point. You become resistant to feedback, defensive in the face of constructive criticism, and hesitant to explore new methodologies that might expose your current limitations. The stakes of making a mistake become so high that the curiosity, the experimentation, and the joyful pursuit of knowledge are extinguished, replaced by a rigid adherence to what is already known or what is perceived to be safe. Consider a student who cheats to maintain a perfect grade, rather than risking an imperfect score that might reveal a gap in their understanding. Their pursuit of perfection actively prevents genuine learning. Similarly, your commitment to learning is compromised when chained to flawlessness. You seek out new information not to expand your understanding, but to validate existing methods or to find shortcuts to an unblemished outcome. The stakes are high, so the lessons are superficial or entirely missed. You learn not from lived experience, but from sterile theory, avoiding the raw, unfiltered reality of trial and error. This dedication to continuous learning, when warped by perfectionism, becomes a burden. It is not a profound joy, but an anxiety-ridden chore. The more you fear imperfection, the less effectively you can learn, the less wisely you can act, and the less profoundly you can shape your future. And as we arrive at the culmination of this profound understanding, consider the ultimate truth about perfectionism. It is not a virtuous aspiration, but an insidious trap. It is not the path to greatness, but the enemy of its very realization. It is the universe's way of inviting you to transcend your current limitations, not by being flawless, but by embracing the beautiful, messy process of growth. Every attempt, every draft, every iteration, every perceived mistake is an opportunity, a demanding mentor pushing you beyond your comfort zone, stretching your capacities, and revealing depths of strength you never knew existed if you allow yourself the grace of imperfection. This isn't a message of passive acceptance of mediocrity, but an empowering call to embrace courageous imperfection as a strategic partner in your progress. It's about recognizing that the discomfort of being not good enough in the moment is precisely where the true growth resides. The initial raw draft is where the masterpiece begins. The stumbling first steps are where true mastery is born. The awkward attempts are where genuine learning takes root. Your mindset, your belief, your clarity, your vision, your purpose, your discipline, your action, your gratitude, your adaptability, your resilience, your learning. All these vital elements are not merely hindered by perfectionism, they are often strangled by it. They are the indelible marks of a spirit that refused to be broken by the fear of error, a will that refused to yield to unattainable standards, a soul that chose to emerge not just intact, but undeniably stronger through persistent, imperfect action. So, when that quiet whisper of flawlessness attempts to paralyze your next step, do not shrink from it. Do not lament its presence. Instead, breathe deeply. Anchor yourself in the wisdom of those who came before you, who built empires and masterpieces, one flawed learning step at a time. Understand that this moment, however imperfect, is a pivotal chapter in your own heroic journey. It is a defining moment, an opportunity to demonstrate to yourself and to the world the true extent of your courage, your ingenuity, and your indomitable spirit, precisely because you dared to begin, dared to release, dared to progress, even when it wasn't perfect. You are not merely capable of making mistakes. You are designed to learn from them. You are not meant to be a static, flawless ideal. You are meant to be a dynamic, evolving force of creation. Your unique journey through imperfection has prepared you for a purpose far grander than you can yet imagine. It has equipped you with the empathy to connect with others who stumble, the wisdom to guide through the messiness of growth, and the resilience to lead with unwavering progress. Go forth then, not just to survive, but to embody the transformative power of courageous imperfection. Let your life be a living monument to the principle that greatness is not born in pristine conditions, but forged in the dynamic, often messy reality of relentless, imperfect progress. Stand tall, radiate your hard-won strength, and contribute your unique, battle-tested wisdom to a world hungering for authentic leadership and unwavering progress. Your evolution is ongoing. Your mastery is within your grasp. The time for your ultimate emergence, flaws and all, is now. The relentless pursuit of perfection we've uncovered is not merely a personal struggle. It casts a long, chilling shadow over collaboration and collective achievement. When individuals within a team are paralyzed by the fear of error, the synergy that defines true group progress evaporates. Ideas are hoarded, feedback is feared, and innovative leaps are stifled, all because the imagined flaw in a nascent thought outweighs its potential brilliance. This pervasive fear creates an environment of hesitation, where the courage to put forward an unpolished concept, to admit a nascent understanding, or to test an incomplete solution is systematically eroded. Consider the dynamic within a groundbreaking scientific research team. Progress isn't linear. It's a messy dance of hypotheses, experiments, failures, and recalibrations. If every scientist waited for a perfect theory before sharing it, if every experiment had to yield an unblemished result on the first try, the monumental breakthroughs that advance human knowledge would never occur. Their collective strength lies in their willingness to share imperfect data, to critique and refine each other's half-formed ideas, and to iteratively build upon a foundation of shared, acknowledged imperfection. This collaborative courage, this collective embrace of the messy process is precisely what unlocks exponential progress. But the insidious grip of perfectionism within a team creates isolated silos of anxiety, transforming potential collaborators into anxious, self-monitoring units, each terrified of exposing a flaw that might reflect poorly on their individual worth. This fear of imperfection in a collaborative setting leads to a severe deficit in transparent communication. True progress, especially in complex endeavors, hinges on open, honest, and often vulnerable sharing of information. This includes not just successes, but also challenges, uncertainties, and mistakes. When the internal demand for flawlessness dominates, individuals become guarded, masking inefficiencies, hiding setbacks, and sugarcoating realities to avoid appearing less than perfect. This lack of transparency starves the collective of vital information, prevents timely course corrections, and ultimately undermines the trust that is the bedrock of effective teamwork. Imagine an architect who hides structural flaws in their designs, or a software engineer who conceals bugs in their code, all in the name of presenting a perfect project. The eventual collapse or system failure is inevitable, often with catastrophic consequences. Similarly, when the fear of imperfection stifles honest communication, the entire collective suffers. Problems fester, misunderstandings escalate, and opportunities for shared learning are missed. The commitment to perfection prioritizes individual image over collective truth, fostering an environment where facade is valued over function. This absence of transparency ensures that mistakes are repeated, learning is stunted, and true, impactful collaboration remains an elusive ideal. For how can a team fix what they cannot openly acknowledge? This breakdown in transparent communication, driven by perfectionism, directly impacts collective problem solving. Innovation and effective solutions rarely emerge from isolated genius. They are often the product of diverse perspectives, clashing, converging, and refining ideas in a dynamic exchange. But when individuals are unwilling to voice concerns, to challenge assumptions, or to admit when a strategy isn't working, the collective intelligence of the group is severely hampered. Problems are either ignored, superficially addressed, or left to escalate, all because the pursuit of flawlessness prevents the messy, often uncomfortable process of open inquiry and collaborative critique. Consider a medical team facing a complex diagnosis. If each specialist only presented perfect findings, ignoring ambiguities or conflicting symptoms, the patient's true condition might remain elusive. The breakthrough comes from open discussion, from admitting uncertainties, from cross-referencing imperfect data points until a coherent picture emerges. Their problem solving isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about systematically eliminating possibilities through shared investigation and a willingness to be wrong. But perfectionism stifles this vital process. It transforms problem solving from a dynamic inquiry into a static defense, where individuals are more concerned with appearing competent than with actually finding solutions. The result is stagnation, missed opportunities, and the perpetuation of flawed approaches as the collective capacity to diagnose and innovate is sacrificed at the altar of individual unblemished image. This sabotage of collective problem solving, born from the fear of imperfection, ultimately leads to a severe atrophy of organizational learning and growth. True growth, whether for an individual or an entire enterprise, stems from a willingness to experiment, to embrace feedback, and to extract lessons from both successes and failures. But when perfectionism dominates, failure is feared above all else, and mistakes are either denied, rationalized, or buried. This creates a culture where genuine learning is impossible because the raw material for insight, imperfection itself, is systematically filtered out or suppressed. Think of an innovative tech company that launches a new product, meticulously tracking user feedback, identifying glitches, and rapidly iterating based on real-world usage. Their growth is fueled by a relentless cycle of release, learn, improve, a process that inherently embraces initial imperfection. If they waited for a flawless product before launch or denied any post-launch issues, they would quickly be outmaneuvered by more adaptable competitors. Similarly, an organization gripped by perfectionism loses its agility, its capacity for genuine self-correction. It becomes brittle, unable to absorb shocks, and incapable of evolving in a dynamic market. This creates a perpetual state of arrested development where the drive for an unattainable ideal prevents any meaningful, sustainable progress, ultimately leading to stagnation and obsolescence. The commitment to flawlessness becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of failure, ironically by preventing the very learning that leads to long-term success. So, as we draw this profound exploration to a close, understand that the shadow of perfectionism extends far beyond your personal anxiety. It is a formidable obstacle to collective progress, to the synergy of teams, to the transparency of communication, to the efficacy of problem solving, and to the very capacity for organizational learning and growth. It's a silent killer of innovation, a saboteur of collaboration, and an insidious enemy of the very progress it claims to champion. The path to true advancement, whether for an individual or a collective, is not found in the sterile pursuit of flawlessness, but in the courageous embrace of the iterative process. It lies in the willingness to launch before you're ready, to share before you're perfect, to iterate before you're complete. It demands a culture where mistakes are viewed as data, where feedback is cherished as a gift, and where vulnerability is seen as a strength. Your inherent capacity for growth, for creativity, for true impact is not defined by your ability to be perfect, but by your unwavering commitment to progress. Liberate yourself and your collaborations from the tyranny of unobtainable ideals. Embrace the beautiful, messy reality of creation, the dynamic dance of learning and iteration. For it is precisely in the space of courageous imperfection that true innovation flourishes, genuine collaboration thrives, and monumental progress, both personal and collective, is finally realized. The time to build, to learn, and to grow, flaws and all, is unequivocally now. The pervasive grip of perfectionism doesn't just hinder individual output or collaborative synergy, it fundamentally distorts our relationship with time itself. In its thrall, every task, every project, every aspiration becomes an endless vortex of refinement. The illusion that more time spent will inevitably lead to a flawless outcome traps us in cycles of procrastination and obsessive detail work, causing us to miss deadlines, squander opportunities, and ultimately lose the precious, finite resource that is our present moment. This isn't about efficiency. It's about the deep-seated fear that releasing something unfinished or imperfect into the world is a greater sin than never releasing it at all. Consider the countless authors whose manuscripts remain forever in the drawer, endlessly edited but never published. Or the entrepreneurs whose revolutionary ideas never see the light of day, perpetually refined in a private bubble, while competitors launch imperfect but functional versions and capture the market. Their potential impact is sacrificed at the altar of the perfect moment, a moment that tragically never arrives. Time in the hands of perfectionism becomes not a canvas for creation, but a tool for perpetual postponement. The clock ticks forward indifferent to our internal struggles, yet we remain frozen, convinced that the ideal alignment of circumstances, the impeccable presentation, is just one more tweak away. This warped perception of time is a thief of dreams, stealing not just minutes and hours, but entire seasons of opportunity and potential contribution. This distortion of time by perfectionism directly impacts our ability to prioritize effectively. When every detail is magnified to the level of critical importance, when every aspect of a project demands an unrealistic standard of flawlessness, the distinction between what is truly essential and what is merely cosmetic vanishes. Energy and focus are dispersed across trivialities, while the core objectives, the impactful milestones, languish or are delayed indefinitely. The urgent replaces the important, and the pursuit of an immaculate fringe eclipses the integrity of the whole. Imagine a general meticulously polishing every button on a uniform while the enemy advances on the main front. Their attention to detail, while admirable in a different context, is catastrophic when priorities are misaligned. Similarly, in the grip of perfectionism, your capacity for strategic discernment erodes. You become incapable of distinguishing between a good enough iteration that allows for forward momentum and a critical flaw that truly compromises integrity. This leads to a constant state of overwhelm, where every task feels equally demanding, and the ability to make swift, impactful decisions is severely compromised. The fear of an imperfect minor element becomes a justification for neglecting a crucial major one, ensuring that true progress is sacrificed on the altar of unattainable, comprehensive flawlessness. This inability to prioritize, rooted in the demands of perfectionism, also devastates our mental and emotional well-being. The constant striving for an unreachable ideal, the relentless self-criticism over perceived flaws, and the persistent anxiety of judgment create a fertile ground for burnout, exhaustion, and chronic stress. The joy of creation is replaced by dread, the satisfaction of completion by perpetual dissatisfaction, and the vibrant energy of pursuit by the crushing weight of self-imposed demands. This isn't ambition, it's self-punishment, a continuous internal battle that drains the very life force needed for sustainable effort and genuine fulfillment. Think of the artist who pushes themselves past the point of exhaustion, endlessly repainting a single detail, only to feel inadequate even upon completion. Their passion, once a source of boundless energy, becomes a conduit for their own suffering. Similarly, when your drive is fueled by the pursuit of perfection, your mental and emotional reserves are constantly depleted. Sleep becomes elusive, relaxation feels like a betrayal, and moments of peace are overshadowed by the internal monologue of not good enough. This creates a vicious cycle where exhaustion further diminishes your capacity, making the pursuit of perfection even more grueling, and ultimately leading to a complete breakdown of creativity, productivity, and overall happiness. The relentless chase for flawlessness ensures a pervasive sense of inadequacy, stealing the joy from every accomplishment and leaving behind only the bitter taste of perpetual striving. So, as the echoes of this truth resonate, understand that the struggle with perfectionism is not a mark of superior dedication, but often a deeply entrenched fear. It is the fear of vulnerability, the fear of judgment, and perhaps most profoundly, the fear of not being enough. But true liberation, true progress, true peace, and true contribution are found not in the absence of flaws, but in the courageous embrace of our inherent human imperfection. Your capacity for greatness does not lie in flawless execution, but in the relentless, iterative process of creation and improvement. It lies in your willingness to ship the imperfect product, to share the unpolished idea, to take the stumbling first step, It is in this dynamic, sometimes messy, often challenging, but ultimately liberating space that genuine innovation thrives, meaningful impact is made, and a profound sense of fulfillment finally takes root. The clock is ticking. Time is finite. Your energy is precious. Do not squander another moment in the futile pursuit of an illusion. Embrace the beauty of the unfinished, the power of the iterative, and the courage of the imperfect. For in doing so, you will not only free yourself from a tyrannical master, but you will unlock a torrent of creativity, productivity, and joy that will propel you towards the extraordinary life and impact you were always meant to create, flaws and all. The time for your unapologetically authentic, magnificently imperfect progress is now. The ultimate cost of perfectionism isn't just lost time or emotional strain. It's the profound suppression of your unique authenticity. When you relentlessly strive for an external ideal of flawlessness, you inevitably smooth over the very edges, the quirks, the vulnerabilities, and the imperfections that make you distinctly you. Your voice becomes muted, your perspective sanitized, and your creative expression diluted, all in a futile attempt to meet an imagined standard of universal approval. This isn't about professional polish. It's about losing the raw, unfiltered essence that resonates most deeply with others and fuels genuine innovation. Consider the early, raw brilliance of groundbreaking artists or musicians whose initial works might have been technically imperfect, but pulsated with an unmistakable, unbridled originality. If they had succumbed to the pressure to conform, to erase every unconventional note or stroke in pursuit of a flawless imitation, their revolutionary contributions might never have emerged. Their enduring impact came precisely from their unapologetic authenticity, from daring to put their true, imperfect selves into their creations. Similarly, when perfectionism dictates your output, you sacrifice the very qualities that would set you apart, that would allow you to connect on a deeper level, and that would enable you to contribute something truly novel to the world. You become a reflection of a collective ideal rather than a beacon of individual truth, dimming your own light in the shadow of what you perceive to be perfect. This suppression of authenticity leads to a crippling inability to fully embrace vulnerability. Perfectionism thrives on control, on presenting an unblemished facade to the world. But true connection, genuine learning, and profound growth often demand that we expose our uncertainties, admit our limitations, and share our unfinished thoughts. When the fear of being seen as less than perfect becomes paramount, you construct walls around yourself, preventing the very exchanges that foster trust, empathy, and collaborative breakthroughs. This isn't just about sharing personal feelings. It's about the professional courage to say, I don't know. This is a first draft. Or, I need help. All of which are essential catalysts for progress. Imagine a leader who insists on appearing infallible, never admitting a mistake or asking for assistance. Their team, mirroring this rigid posture, becomes equally guarded, leading to a breakdown in communication and a culture of blame rather than learning. Their leadership, however outwardly perfect, lacks the human connection that inspires true loyalty and collective effort. Similarly, your personal and professional growth is severely limited when vulnerability is rejected. You miss opportunities for invaluable feedback, for unexpected mentorship, and for the profound collaborative synergy that arises when individuals feel safe to be truly open. The demand for perfection tragically closes the door on the very human interactions that could elevate your work and expand your impact, leaving you isolated in a fortress of self-imposed flawlessness. This constant avoidance of vulnerability, driven by the fear of imperfection, ultimately starves your capacity for radical empathy. When your energy is consumed by maintaining a flawless external image, your ability to truly see, understand, and connect with the struggles and imperfections of others diminishes. You become less tolerant of mistakes in others, less compassionate towards their efforts, and less capable of offering the kind of genuine support that fosters true growth. Your own internal battle with flawlessness becomes a lens through which you judge the world, creating distance rather than connection and hindering your ability to lead with true understanding and insight. Consider a mentor who can only see the finished product, unable to empathize with the messy process, the countless iterations, or the inevitable failures their protege must navigate. Their guidance, however well-intentioned, lacks the deep resonance that comes from understanding the human struggle. Similarly, when perfectionism hardens your perspective, your capacity for radical empathy atrophies. You lose touch with the very imperfections that define the human experience, becoming detached from the messy realities of creation and progress. This diminishes your ability to lead, to inspire, and to truly serve, as the distance between your idealized self and the imperfect reality of others becomes an unbridgeable chasm. Your inability to embrace your own flaws, ironically, makes you less capable of understanding and helping others with theirs, cutting you off from a powerful source of connection and meaningful impact. So, let this be the resounding echo as our exploration concludes. The pursuit of perfection is a thief of your authenticity, a barrier to your vulnerability, and a saboteur of your radical empathy. It is an internal tyranny that demands you shed the very qualities that make you capable of true connection, profound growth, and lasting impact. Your true power does not lie in an unblemished facade, but in the courageous act of revealing your authentic self, flaws and all. It lies in your willingness to be vulnerable, to admit what you don't know, and to embrace the messy reality of shared creation. It lies in your capacity for radical empathy, born from understanding that imperfection is not a weakness, but a universal aspect of the human condition, a shared journey towards ever greater understanding and contribution. The world does not need more flawless masks. It hungers for authentic, courageous individuals who dare to create, to lead, and to connect from a place of genuine, imperfect strength. Your life, in its glorious imperfection, is precisely what is needed. Your unique voice, your raw ideas, your vulnerable courage, and your empathetic understanding, these are the true components of your masterpiece, forever evolving, forever impactful. The time for hiding is over. The moment for unapologetic authenticity, for radical vulnerability, and for profound, imperfect connection is now. Go forth, not just to survive, but to embody the transformative power of genuine human progress, flaws and all, and illuminate the path for others by daring to be truly, magnificently yourself. The ultimate, unseen consequence of perfectionism is its insidious attack on joy. True, unadulterated joy in creation, in learning, in connection, arises from a state of flow, from immersion in the process, and from the acceptance of inherent imperfection. When the mind is constantly critiquing, comparing, and striving for an unreachable ideal, the simple pleasure of engaging with life's challenges and triumphs is systematically choked. Every accomplishment is immediately overshadowed by what could have been better. Every moment of progress is marred by the awareness of what remains less than perfect. This isn't just about professional output. It's about the profound personal satisfaction that comes from living a full, engaged, and authentic life. Consider the child engrossed in building a sand castle, utterly absorbed in the moment, unconcerned with whether it's perfectly symmetrical or structurally flawless. Their joy is in the act of creation itself. But as we age, perfectionism often robs us of this innate capacity for unburdened delight. We become prisoners of our own standards, unable to truly celebrate small victories, to revel in the learning process, or to simply enjoy the journey because our gaze is perpetually fixed on a distant, flawless destination. This constant striving, without the accompanying appreciation for the present, transforms life into a relentless, joyless pursuit where satisfaction is perpetually deferred and genuine happiness remains an elusive mirage. The very purpose of striving to build a better life, to make a meaningful contribution, is undermined when the joy that fuels sustained effort is extinguished. This erosion of joy, fueled by the relentless demands of perfectionism, ultimately limits your capacity for true abundance. Abundance, in its most profound sense, is not just about material possessions. It's about a richness of experience, a wealth of relationships, and a profound appreciation for the opportunities that life presents. When you are constantly focused on what is imperfect, on what is lacking, or on what could be better, your mind becomes a filter that blocks out the vast, often imperfect abundance that already surrounds you. You see scarcity in every flaw, limitation in every deviation, and inadequacy in every unpolished aspect of your life and work. Imagine a gardener who only sees the single imperfect leaf on a thriving plant, completely missing the vibrant blossoms, the sturdy stem, and the bounty of fruit it offers. Their focus on the flaw blinds them to the true abundance of their garden. Similarly, when perfectionism dictates your perception, your ability to recognize and appreciate the inherent wealth in your life, be it in your relationships, your health, your creative output, or your personal growth, is severely diminished. You are perpetually in a state of striving for something more, something better, something flawless, inadvertently pushing away the very experiences and connections that constitute true richness. This mindset prevents you from receiving the full measure of life's gifts, as your attention is perpetually consumed by what is absent rather than what is already present in glorious, imperfect abundance. So as we conclude this profound journey, let the truth echo in your soul. Perfectionism is a profound enemy of joy and a formidable barrier to true abundance. It is the internal tyrant that demands you sacrifice the present moment for an illusionary future, robbing you of the very happiness and fulfillment you inherently seek. Your ultimate freedom lies not in achieving flawlessness, but in the courageous act of embracing the beautiful, vibrant, and undeniably imperfect reality of your life. It lies in your willingness to find joy in the process, to celebrate small victories, and to recognize the inherent abundance that permeates every stage of your growth. It lies in your capacity to see beauty not just in perfection, but in the striving, the learning, and the continuous unfolding of your unique potential. The world does not need more perfectly polished, joyless automatons. It yearns for authentic, courageous individuals who dare to live fully, to create passionately, and to connect deeply, embracing the glorious imperfections that make life truly rich. Your life, in its vibrant, messy, and ever-evolving reality, is precisely where your greatest joy and profound abundance reside. The time for striving for an impossible ideal is over. The moment for living fully, for experiencing joy, and for embracing the true abundance that flows from imperfect, authentic progress is now. Go forth, not just to achieve, but to embody the transformative power of acceptance, to cultivate a profound sense of gratitude for your journey, and to radiate the unburdened joy that comes from living a life truly, magnificently, and imperfectly your own. Your evolution is ongoing. Your abundance is within your grasp. The time for your unapologetically joyful, magnificently imperfect emergence is now. The final and perhaps most tragic casualty of perfectionism is the suppression of genuine creativity. Creativity, by its very nature, is a messy, iterative process. It thrives on experimentation, on divergent thinking, on making connections between seemingly unrelated ideas, and on the courage to produce something novel and untested. But when the artist, the inventor, the writer, or the entrepreneur is shackled by the demand for an immediate, flawless outcome, the playful exploration, the bold risk-taking, and the willingness to fail forward, all essential ingredients of true innovation are systematically stifled. The fear of producing something bad or imperfect becomes a more powerful force than the urge to create, leaving countless brilliant ideas stillborn and potential breakthroughs forever dormant. Consider the rough, unpolished demos of legendary musicians that later became chart-topping anthems, or the initial clunky prototypes of revolutionary technologies that paved the way for modern marvels. Their power lay not in their initial perfection, but in the raw, creative spark they contained, a spark that was allowed to evolve, refine, and iterate without the crushing weight of immediate flawlessness. If those creators had been paralyzed by the fear of an imperfect first rendition, the world would have been deprived of countless innovations. Similarly, when perfectionism dictates your creative process, you become a censor of your own potential. You edit before you create, you critique before you even explore, and you judge before you allow an idea to fully form. This internal policing ensures that your creative wellspring remains untapped, your unique perspective unexpressed, and your potential contributions to the world remain locked within the confines of your own fear. This suppression of genuine creativity leads to a pervasive lack of originality. When the constant internal pressure is to meet an external, often imagined standard of perfection, the tendency is to imitate what has already been proven successful or accepted. Originality, by definition, involves venturing into the unknown, risking awkwardness, and daring to deviate from established norms. But if every deviation is perceived as a flaw, if every novel approach is scrutinized for its potential imperfection, then true originality becomes impossible. You end up producing competent, perhaps even polished work that lacks the distinctive spark, the unique voice, and the ground-breaking insight that only arises from a fearless embrace of experimentation and imperfection. Imagine a culinary student so obsessed with replicating a perfect classic recipe that they never dare to invent their own dish, never experiment with new flavor combinations, never risk a culinary failure that might lead to a groundbreaking creation. Their skill might be impeccable, but their originality is stifled. Similarly, when your creative spirit is chained to the altar of perfection, you lose the courage to truly innovate. You become a master reproducer rather than an original creator. This isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about avoiding the very possibility of true breakthrough, as the pursuit of flawlessness inadvertently forces you into conformity, ensuring that your work, however polished, lacks the compelling, unforgettable mark of true originality. So, as the final brushstroke of this truth is laid bare, understand that perfectionism is not merely a hindrance to progress. It is the ultimate assassin of genuine creativity and the silent suffocator of originality. It demands that you sacrifice the very essence of what makes you a unique, powerful force for innovation and contribution. Your profound capacity for creation does not lie in a pristine first draft, but in the fearless act of bringing forth raw, evolving ideas. It lies in your willingness to experiment without guarantee, to explore without judgment, and to allow your unique vision to unfold in its own messy, magnificent way. It lies in your courage to embrace the awkwardness of the new, the uncertainty of the untested, and the liberating freedom of authentic expression. The world does not need more flawlessly rendered copies. It hungers for authentic, courageous originals who dare to explore uncharted territories, to express their unique truths, and to create from a place of unburdened, joyful experimentation. Your life, in its vibrant, messy, and ever-evolving reality, is precisely where your greatest creative breakthroughs and most profound original contributions reside. The time for self-censorship is over. The moment for fearless creation, for bold originality, and for embracing the vibrant, imperfect nature of your genius is now. Go forth, not just to refine, but to truly create, not just to emulate, but to originate, and to radiate the unburdened joy that comes from allowing your true, magnificent, and utterly imperfect self to shape the world. Your evolution is ongoing. Your masterpiece is unfolding. The time for your unapologetically original, magnificently imperfect, and powerfully creative emergence is now.